Hello, everyone, and well, thank you for joining us today. I believe there's a number of people joining as we speak, so I will, if you don't mind, wait another 30 seconds before we actually start today's webinar, which will most likely take something like 30 to 35 minutes. And I think at the first we usually plan for something around 45 minutes, so we will give you a bit more time today. Be back in a couple seconds. Okay, well, that was a quick second. Let's just start. So hello, everyone. And again, thank you for, joining us today. So as you know, the goal of today's webinar will be to discuss KNIME and more specifically KNIME Server. So we'll talk about some of its functionality, what values it can bring to your organization, and of course, we'll demonstrate some of that in action via a live demo. Before we start, I want to remind you that you can ask any question during the webinar. Of course, we want this webinar to be as interactive as possible, so please don't hesitate. We'll keep some time at the end to answer the question that you might have. That being said, just a quick word about today's speaker. So this being a joint webinar, we have Vincenzo from KNIME, who I will let introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. This is Vincenzo Tursi from KNIME, and I work as partner manager here at KNIME, so taking care of the relationships with our partners that are part of our partner network here at KNIME. And I've been working for KNIME since the past 5 years, more or less. So happy to be here today with our partner Miguel in this webinar.
Thanks, Vincenzo. And so on the module side, we have Cordelia, who is one of our consultants and data analysts.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here.
And there's myself, Julian, who is essentially in charge of module here in the UK, where we are doing this webinar from. So here's a quick overview of what we'll cover in today's webinar. First, we will briefly talk about module and KNIME as a company, essentially telling you a bit more about who we are and what we do. We'll then go over some of KNIME Server key components, talk about some of its main functionality and how today you can leverage them. And finally, we'll go to the heart of today's agenda, which is a live demo of one of KNIME's collaboration feature, the Web Portal. And we've created a little use case to illustrate and make it a little bit easier for you to follow. So let's get started. So as mentioned, I just wanted to briefly introduce you to module and tell you a bit more about essentially us. I'll stay very brief so we can focus on, once again, the heart of today's focus, which is KNIME Server. And essentially, module is a consultancy firm that specializes in data analytics. We are here to help people solve business problems by leveraging data. And this can translate into a number of things, like help in choosing and implementing the right solutions, project support or management, strategic consulting or advisory, training, and so on. All that we do revolves around data, and we've built a business so that we can support our customers' project at every stage of the data value chain, which is illustrated here in front of you. So that goes from data preparation all the way to the data visualization stage. And then depending on where you are in your analytical journey, we are going to leverage different internal expertise and partners like KNIME for the data preparation and data science side of things, and Tableau software, for instance, for the data visualization part. Well, that's about it about module in a nutshell. And I will now leave Vincenzo introduce KNIME. Vincenzo, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just a super quick introduction to KNIME as well. KNIME is a software house company, and we are specialized and focused on the development of a software that allows you to create and productionalize data science. And we do this with two solutions that we offer. One is KNIME Analytics Platform, which is an open source and free desktop version that allows you to handle the, let's say, creation of data science. And with this, I mean really like handling the different steps of a data science life cycle, starting from reading data from any kind of data source, to blending data, transform this data in order to prepare them to then train machine learning models, optimize the models and capture them. And then we have KNIME Server instead, which is like adds on to what is available with KNIME Analytics Platform. And therefore, this allows you to really like handle the deployment phase or like to operationalize what you have created previously with KNIME Analytics Platform. And therefore, here what we include are all steps related to validation, deployment steps, as well as the consumption and interaction, and also the monitoring and the update of what has been created earlier on.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, this is really just in brief what we do, and I'll leave you now back to Julian.
Thank you very much, Vincenzo. And actually, so we'll add a little bit to that. And obviously today was to focus not specifically on KNIME Analytics Platform, but to talk more about the KNIME Server. And the first question I would like to address here is essentially why. Why an organization would need KNIME Server? I think that most of you are regular user of KNIME Analytics Platform, or at least you are familiar with it. And as you know, it provides a lot of functionality to essentially help you manipulate your data in an easy and visual way. But comes a point when your team or the complexity of your data projects grow, and you might need some additional feature to collaborate, to understand and support what other people are doing, or maybe for the IT department to monitor what is happening within the organization. And that is what KNIME Server provides. It complements the KNIME analytical platform and helps you industrialize your environment, making it more scalable, more effective by enabling the organization with collaboration, automation, deployment, and management. So things like solving the pain around sharing workflow, which might be fine when you are two user. In that case, you can easily import and export, but obviously this can become a challenge when you have more and more users. Or things like the need to automate the process of running the workflow, especially important when the business relies on the outcome. You don't want to, rely on someone having to do a manual operation to run the workflow. So automation is obviously very important. Or maybe when you need to manage the security aspect of that environment, dealing with access rights and so on. So in the next slides, we'll focus on some of these functionalities. But before we do that, I wanted to briefly talk about the deployment option. This is something that many of our customers are worried or want to know more about. And KNIME Server is very flexible when it comes to deployments. You have the option of installing it on premises, or if you prefer, on a hosted environment like AWS or Azure. It is also important to note that KNIME Server is available on their respective marketplace, meaning that you can have a KNIME Server up and running in the cloud in just a few clicks. So moving on to some of those functionalities that KNIME Server offers. Of course, we won't have time to cover everything, but I wanted to highlight the one we think are the most popular or that we think solves the biggest challenges in today's organization. And the first one I want to mention, which obviously help with collaboration, is the KNIME Server Repository. Essentially, every local KNIME analytical platform has the ability to connect to the KNIME server so that a user can easily upload and essentially store workflows, create workflow groups, can share and store templates, components, and so on, allowing everyone who has the access right to find, understand, and use workflow that was created by others or maybe in the past. Two other very interesting functionality that this offers as well is version control and the KNIME workflow comparison tool. When deploying or updating a workflow, it is always kind of important to keep track of changes. And KNIME Server will allow you to take snapshots and therefore allowing you to look at previous version and if needed, roll back to it if you think that's more appropriate. You also have as mentioned, the workflow comparison functionality. And this will highlight the differences between two versions of a workflow, allowing you to easily spot things like, insertion, deletion, substitution, different node configuration between one version of the workflow and another, and so on. So this is something that is fully available online via the KNIME server and the KNIME repository. The second KNIME functionality that I want to highlight today is the ability to remote and automate the execution of your workflows. And of course, this is quite self-explanatory, but nonetheless, one of the most important features of the KNIME server. So you have the ability to execute your workflow straight away, right away, or if you prefer, use the scheduler to set up the execution of that workflow. So that could be interesting, like if a business user needs their report by, let's say, Monday morning when they come to work, like you could set up the workflow to run so that the report gets updated for when they arrive at that time and that they need that report. So let's say at 1 a.m. in the morning, those kind of things, depending on the length and the complexity of the workflow. It is also important to note that you can have visibility on your workflow that is running, and you can have that visibility with the remote workflow editor capability. This gives you the ability to monitor the progress of your workflow. For instance, if it fails, you'll be able to see where it has failed. You can remotely debug it or optimize that workflow. And this is particularly interesting for longer and more complicated workflow jobs. One other capability that is very useful and that is leveraged by a number of our customers is the KNIME Server REST API. What is it? It is essentially the ability to give access to your workflow and integrate the result in an external application or maybe into your IT infrastructure. It is important to note that all server functionalities are available via the REST API. So essentially, another application will be able to ping the server and allow you to upload, download, or delete resources, upload licenses, restore item, execute workflow, of course, schedule job, set permissions, create use groups, and so forth. So this is kind of the next level of automation that you can perform with REST APIs. Another key aspect of the KNIME server is, of course, helping the organization manage and monitor the environment. As the number of users grow within your organization, the IT department will need to support in managing all these users. Like securing or controlling the access, making, for instance, the onboarding easier for the user, and so on. And KNIME Server is here to help you manage the security and administration elements with, for instance, the ability to set permission on the workflow or data files. if you need to, for instance, comply with data protection policies, internal business user, or maybe team processes. And of course, this can be done per user or per group of user, and of course, assign different rights depending on the users and group of users you've created. You can also integrate authentication with corporate LDAP or Active Directory to add a layer of security to your environment. You can monitor, manage all the aspects of your KNIME, of how people are using the KNIME server, or once again, to help the onboarding process centrally manage all the preferences for the company. Finally, the last feature I want to bring up today, and Cordelia will focus on that for her demo in a second, but it is the web portal. And what is the web portal? The web portal is essentially an extension to KNIME Server. It provides a web interface that gives access to workflows, allowing any users, who of course have access rights, to execute those workflow and investigate the results. These users don't have to be technical. They can be business user, and most likely they are business users who don't have KNIME Analytics Platform installed on their laptop, and they will be able to run those workflow as well, essentially a web application directly from a web browser whenever they need it. So in a nutshell, that's the web portal. But enough with the talking, and I want to move to the demo, and I will pass the mic to Cordelia, who will discuss and show you the web portal in action. So Cordelia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julien. So for our business case, we will focus on KNIME Server. So how to connect, how to share and publish the workflow on the server, discover the web interface, learn how to run workflows on the server, and see that we can use third-party tools. Before starting the demo, I will need to put some context in order for you to fully understand the process. I will alternatively take a role of a marketing manager and a BI analyst. As a marketing manager, I have difficulties to consolidate and analyze my data coming from surveys. So I need the BI team's help to transform and prepare my data. As a BI team member, I will use KNIME Analytics Platform to create the changes and KNIME Web Portal to make an easy access for the marketing team from a web browser, and use the third-party visualization tool to help them analyze their data. So let's move on to the demo. Let me just share my screen. Here we are. So this demonstration will allow us to answer two relevant business questions. First, how can I use a simple and intuitive tool in order to prepare, clean, and enrich my data? Then how can I improve the collaboration between multiple persons in a company? In order to answer this question, let me tell you a little story. I'm a marketing manager from a company, and like a lot of companies, we decided to make a survey to have users' feedbacks on cameras in order to adjust and personalize our offer to our photographer customers. I have no skills in data analysis, and I would like to have an easy way to get a dashboard with all the information from these surveys. Therefore, I'm asking our BI team for some help. So now I'm going to be the data analyst from the BI team. First step, I'm taking a look at the input file. So you have it on the screen. This is a monthly survey about cameras in an Excel standard format. Some questions from the survey are about the users, for example, what kind of photographer they are, if they're professional or amateur. This kind of questions are open-ended questions. We also have closed-ended questions with multiple choices, such as which software do they use the most? So it would be over here. Here, sorry. So some of the lines are blank because the user could have multiple answers. So these different type of questions have created difficult file to use in a data visualization tool with a lot of null values thanks to the close-ended questions. Would be easier to have a suitable file with all information in lines. But how do we do this transformation? To do this transformation, we need to do some data preparation. Data preparation is the most time-consuming for a data analyst. It represents 80% of the time against 20% of pure analysis. Today, together, we will see that with a simple data preparation tool, we'll be able to reverse this trend, reverse these percentages. So let's dig in the file a little bit more, and we can see over here that the columns header are doubled. So we have for the open-ended questions, we have the first line, so the start date and the IP address, email, first name, last name. And the second line describes the answers of close-ended questions. So if we go back to the software they currently use, we have JFH Photo Studio, GitHub Camera App, etc., etc. So with this file, it is compulsory to clean it up in order to use the data visualization tool after that. So now let's take a look at the output file after the data preparation. We had about 50 columns in our input files, and now we only have 7 of them. We have only one header line. Both lines from the input file are in one, and now we have the survey questions and the answer on one line. All the questions have been transposed. So thanks to this new file, anybody can use it to visualize the data with any kind of data visualization tool. But how did I manage to make these changes? In order to get this output file, I used an easy-to-learn and easy-to-use tool called KNIME Analytics Platform. It's not compulsory to be a programming genius in order to use it. And since this webinar is about KNIME Server, I suggest not to dwell too much on KNIME Analytics Platform, but to focus more on the server. Let's take a quick look at the different parts of the software. On the top left corner, you can navigate between the different available environments. So I have my local workspace, and just above I have the KNIME server. We'll talk about it in just a little moment. As you may already know, each step of data preparation or data cleaning is represented with boxes that we call nodes. This way, KNIME is very visual and easy to maintain by anyone. All the nodes are sorted by theme in a node repository just at the bottom left of the screen. So we have the input-output theme, the manipulation field, the analytic theme, and so on. So now if we take a closer look to the KNIME workflow that I use to clean up the input Excel file. First, we need to import the file into the workflow. So this is the first node over here. Then the second node, called header preparation, allows us to clean and prepare the columns header. All the other nodes allow us to prepare the file. For example, to deal with null values or to transpose the columns into lines and so on. Once our workflow is finished, I can deploy it on my company server. So I simply have to make a right click on my workflow, on my local workspace, and click on Deploy to Server. Here I have a window. I just need to select the server and the folders where I want to deploy the workflow to. So I'm already connected to it, and I've already deployed it on the server. Now I will be the marketing manager. I still want to visualize my data. So let's go to the web portal. So I need to fill in my login and password that I was given in order to access the web portal homepage. Here they are. Oops. Sorry. So here we are on the web portal homepage. I have a couple of folders that I have workflows in them, but I'm looking for the camera survey workflow, which has been stored in the gallery, then marketing folder. In this folder, I have multiple workflows that have been published on the server for the marketing team and that are accessible by anyone from my team who wants to use them. Our workflow is just over here, the camera marketing survey. In order to run the workflow, I'll need to click on the Run button and then select the file I want to clean up. Just need to close it. Right. So I have two files. I have a file from December 2020 and a file from January 2021. Let's focus first on December 2020. So I double click on it and just click on the next button. The workflow will run for about 5-6 seconds, and then we will have the result of our workflow that has been deployed on the server. I already have some statistics about my file, such as the number of respondents, 126, the number of questions in the survey, 25, and the collector's ID. Just below, we have the expected result with the 7 columns, and each line match a respondent, the question, and its answer. It is possible to export a workflow result in a CSV format by clicking on the Download File button at the top. And I can also directly see the result in a dashboard on Tableau, which is the data visualization tool we use in our company, by clicking on this button. Sorry for the delay. So here we are. Sorry. So here we are. We have the visualization of my output file. So I have the survey date over here, December 2020, the ID of the collector, and the number of our respondents, 126. Just below, I can see a couple of graphs that allows me to visualize the answer to all the questions. For example, the top brand of camera, the information source of the photographer use, and the kind of picture the photographer like to take. Thanks to KNIME and to Tableau, all this information will help me and my marketing team to adjust and personalize our offers to our photographer customers. So this is it. That's all. But remember, I had another survey from January 2021, and I need to analyze it too. But no need to ask my data analyst to redo all the work. I only need to go back to the selecting file page and rerun the whole thing. So let's go back. Click. Nope. Up. I'm selecting the January 2021 file. Click on Next. The workflow executes for itself for about 5-6 seconds. And I have the result of my January 2021 file. So I can see that we have less respondents in January, only 86 against 126, still the same 25 questions, and the collector ID has changed too. If I want to see if my dashboard has been refreshed with the January data, I click again on it, on this button, and actualize and refresh the data by clicking on the refresh button over here. And yay, I have the January 2021 survey, the ID of the collector and the 86 respondent. The graphs are exactly the same, just the input data just changed. So that's just awesome. So as a marketing manager, I would like to know if it's possible to automate this task, because for now, for this moment, for this webinar, I did it manually. But it's possible to ask KNIME to look for files in a folder and ask them to run with the files in this folder. And the server allows you to schedule a workflow. So to schedule a workflow, let me go back to KNIME. I only need to look for my workflow on the server, Gallery Marketing, click make a right click on it and execute it. By executing it, I have different options, and especially the scheduling options over here in this tab. I can schedule a job, and this job can have only one execution, or I can repeat the execution every hours, every day, every month, or in a time frame. Moreover, you can see that from the KNIME server environment, I can have all the workflows. All the published workflows can be shared and downloaded on KNIME. And so doing, other data analysts can work on a copy of this workflow and improve it or get inspired for their own workflows. To download it, you just need to make a right click on it, to open, and open it as a local copy. So as a conclusion, KNIME Analytic Platform is a simple and intuitive tool that allows us to prepare, clean, and enrich data. And the web portal can considerably improve the collaboration within company by allowing the data analysts to upload, download, and share their work. So that's it for the demonstration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cordelia. Let me just bring my screen up. Thank you very much, Cordelia, for this demo. We'll take a few questions. So I saw a number of questions that I will answer. So a number of you asked whether this webinar is being recorded and whether they can have access to the recording. And the answer is yes. I will follow up with an email to a link to download the webinar. We're also going to publish the workflow, the data source, and possibly the dashboard that you saw, if you are interested. There was a number of questions around what OS can KNIME Server be installed on. So once again, it's quite versatile in the sense that you can install it on Linux, on Windows. So that's quite flexible. There was one question around, is it possible to integrate code in the workflow? So I'm guessing that's more to do with KNIME Analytic Platform. Maybe Cordelia, you can answer that.
Yeah, sure. So KNIME Analytic Platform is more for people who don't need to know code, but you can integrate code like Python, R, Java, or even SQL queries.
Thank you. So I'm looking at, so there's a question from Matthias, who essentially says, can anybody use the workflow which I generate from KNIME Server, or are the user of my workflow? Do you need a license fee? So in terms of, I think there's multiple questions here, but so first of all, only people who you have given access rights will be, of course, able to use the workflow. And in terms of will they need a license fee? So we are referring to the licensing, and we can, of course, take that question offline, as it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. But essentially, there are three kind of version of the server: small, medium, and large, depending on what you're trying to achieve. All of them will have access to the web portal, and then some of them, and depending on the server size, you'll have a number of users attached to them, which you can add and reduce. And then those people will have access to the workflow. And we'll be able to use the workflow, essentially. Hopefully that answers your question, but we can take that question offline as well if you want to dig deeper. There's a question from Ivan about can I have access to a file on the local drive or on SharePoint from the server? The answer is yes. And there's a number of other questions that being conscious about the time, I will most likely come back on a one-on-one basis and offline. We said this was going to last 35 minutes, which is about the case. So just before we go about our day, I just wanted to remind you that if you haven't done it yet, well, KNIME AP is, of course, free to download. I also wanted to mention an initiative that we've launched called the MyDroll Help Desk, where you can essentially book a one-on-one chat with one of our experts for free as well. So you can get support around KNIME, but also any other data-related topics. And yeah, and once again, thank you very much for attending today. We really appreciate your time. Don't hesitate to get in touch if you have any questions, and we wish you a great day. Thank you again to all of you.